Welcome back to Yahoo Finance on the Move. Well, everybody is paying attention to the stimulus negotiations in Washington, D.C. There is something specific that small business owners are paying attention to, and that's the potential for another PPP loan forgiveness program, or at least the one that exists, to be extended to help us understand where we stand on negotiations and where it's headed. Senator Ben Cardin, Democrat from Maryland, is joining us right now. Thank you for being here, Senator. And when we talk about the Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness process, how might we see that amplified in the next deal?
Well, first, this is one part of the next round of stimulus that there has been significant conversations between Democrats and Republicans. Senator Rubio and I, along with Senator Collins and Shaheen, have been in discussions. So I filed legislation with Senator Shaheen and Senator Coons on the second round of PPP. We now have Senator McConnell's bill that also includes the second round of PPP. And there's a lot of similarities. I think we all want to do more for those businesses that really need it. When we passed the PPP program in March, we thought by now that our businesses would be back up and running somewhat normally. That's not the case. So those that have had significant needs, we want to do more for. The original PPP was to get money out quickly to as many small businesses as possible. On the next round, we want to get it out to those small businesses that have need. So the size will be smaller. The Republican bill has it at 300. Our bill has it at 100 or less, with special help for those with 10 or fewer employees by allocating a certain percentage of the funds for the smaller of the small businesses. The small businesses would have to experience a 50% or more loss in revenue as a result of COVID-19. The dollar amounts would be similar to the first round, and the usage would be similar to the first round. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at trying to help in regards to a second round of PPP, and I'm optimistic that if we can get a bill to the finish line, that it will include a second round for PPP.
Senator, it's Julie Hyman here. There were also a lot of complaints about the earlier versions of PPP, that it was too complicated for many business owners, or that there were a lot of roadblocks. We heard a lot of reports that some of the states that were most early and adversely affected by coronavirus, like New York State, for example, did not get the preponderance of PPP loans. They were awarded through, say, community banks more in the Midwest. Are there any proposals on the table to try to sort of repair or adjust for those earlier complaints about it?
Well, the adjustment that we made in the PPP program was to allocate money to community mission lenders, such as CDFIs, and that helped a great deal. And you're correct, those that did not have established relations with banks or the small businesses had a harder time getting their loans processed, and the dollar amounts of their loans were not as great as they should have been. We had particular difficulty at SBA in regards to the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So we did make some mid-course adjustments, and I think that they worked well. So we are looking at trying to strengthen the CDFIs in the second round, as well as the capacity to deal with the underbanked community.
Senator, looking ahead to this week, as we know, the $600 weekly unemployment benefits is set to expire. Can we expect a deal to be made by Friday this week?
I certainly hope so. I hope there'll be that good faith negotiations. We were able to get that done on the CARES Act. The bill passed 96-0 in the Senate. We need a bipartisan bill, and that requires negotiations. The McConnell bill is strictly partisan. It leaves a lot out. It's very different than the House bill. So we really need to have that type of negotiations between Democrats and Republicans, and I hope that will take place immediately.
Senator, we hear the stories, and they're egregious and rare, of the abuses of the PPP program. I think the most recent is the guy who borrowed several million and bought a Lamborghini. What protections would you want to see to make sure that, not necessarily that, but for instance, a hedge fund that might employ maybe 20 people doesn't have access to these funds?
Well, we don't want any funds misused. There were 5 million loans made under the PPP program. The money got out quickly. I think it'll be rated as one of the more efficient programs set up by government and adequately supervised. But there are abuses, and we have to hold them accountable. as we craft the next round, we're going to make sure that like publicly held companies cannot participate. We're going to have a revenue need. You're going to have to establish that you've had a 50% reduction in your revenues as a result of COVID-19. So there's going to be more restrictions as to what type of companies, and it'll be smaller companies, and how they can use their money. They cannot use it to buy an expensive car.
Senator, and incidentally, I believe that person is being prosecuted, so it didn't sort of go unpunished. Senator, to go back to the general idea of the stimulus bill and some kind of agreement, what do you think? What to you is the most important? What are the Democrats in general as well not going to be willing to back down on when it comes to trying to negotiate with Republicans on this bill?
Well, COVID-19 has affected so much of our economy and so much of our community. I think our top priority is to deal with the pandemic itself. The best thing we can do to help workers, the best thing we can do to help reopen our schools, the best thing we can do to help our economy is to get COVID-19 under control. And that means we have to do much better on testing. We need to make sure the resources are there, the technology is there, the distribution system is right. So I would still say dealing with the pandemic is our number one challenge. And then secondly, we really need to recognize the state and local governments had dramatic revenue losses. They're the front line of providing essential services. We have to make sure that they have adequate resources in order to deal with public safety, education, and the critical services that they provide. And I don't want to leave out the individual. The unemployment insurance benefits are critically important. The help here to the individual families to meet their needs and protect them against foreclosure and eviction. But there are real priorities, I think, going into this negotiations.
And we appreciate your sharing a little bit of this and your time with us. Senator Ben Cardin, Democrat from Maryland. All the best to you.